it is time for my biggest challenge in this review series, and that is actually sit through these 5 hour long shows, starting with the one that started it all, WrestleMania 32. Hello, beautiful people. You can tell my tiredness of how long these shows are. As of recording, today is Sunday, March 30th, and I literally sat through 32, 33, and 34 back to back. I had to like pause to take a shower. I took a nap. These shows drag, and it kind of hurt them because they could have been great shows if they knew how to put shows together that were this long without it being long. For starters, WrestleMania 32 only had 7 announced match for the main card, and you mean to tell me that they had to drag it out for 5 hours? Give me a break. No, like half of these matches weren't even that long, anyways. Why was this show so long? And I remember watching back at WrestleMania 32, I was like, "Oh, this was bad." Maybe if I rewatch it, it's not as bad. Oh, you know what's crazy about these shows? Looking back at them, I don't get mad that these shows are long. I get mad because I know that these shows are gonna be long, and it just takes you out of it. And WrestleMania 32 was one where like they built it up. It was supposed to be like 100,000 in attendance. In reality, it was 80,000 tickets sold, but then the 20,000 that they gave away for free kind of made them cheat a little bit. So whoop de doo for them, I guess. But this is to them the biggest WrestleMania ever. But then years go by and records get broken. It had potential of being one of the greatest WrestleManias of all time, but the unfortunate thing happened. So many injuries. I couldn't believe it. I remembered Sting was out, Bray Wyatt was out, Randy Orton was out. But when John Cena was out, I was like, ooh, this show is not looking good. It's like you literally lost some of your best players. Nikki Bella was out. There was just a ridiculous amount of injuries, and to the point where it's like, who is gonna be placed with who? Where is this gonna go? Where's this gonna go? And it was just like, you can tell they were in panic mode, but they gave us the best that they could, but yet drag it for so long. And man, let's just get it on with this show. Let's just talk about it. America the Beautiful was sung by Fifth Harmony this year, and boy, is it awkward to see four girls that didn't make it and Camila Cabello. Man, the disrespect that these girls did to Camila when she wanted to go on a singles run. Uh, I don't even want to talk about it. That's a whole another rant on itself. The first match on the actual show was the Intercontinental Championship ladder match. No, I'm not joking. They did this back to back. A show where we could have gotten Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, Kevin Owens and Dolph Ziggler. They were building that up. They went with just another multi-man ladder match. The first one was good. This one I enjoyed. I mean, you can't really go wrong with a multi-man ladder match, but I did question why did they do it again. Was it just to throw in a bunch of dudes in there? Kevin Owens, Dolph Ziggler, Sami Zayn, The Miz, Sin Cara, Zack Ryder, and Stardust. At this point, we were ready for Stardust to become Cody Rhodes. Maybe that's why they gave it to us. Maybe that's why he had the polka dots, maybe teasing that he was going to come back as Cody Rhodes. This is going to go down as Cody Rhodes' final WrestleMania until WrestleMania 38. So, ironically enough, in the same stadium. That was pretty convenient for Cody, if I may add. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, you could tell they wanted to do their match, but they had to rely on like having other people be involved in this match. The big moment for us as fans was seeing that Zack Ryder finally got his entrance being played at WrestleMania. Zack Ryder wasn't even one of the original players that was supposed to be in this match. It was supposed to be Neville. And boy, this was just like a miracle for Zack Ryder, a guy who wasn't even supposed to be in the match, getting his moment because they have some cool spots and stuff, but like the Miz is about to climb and he's taking his time to get the title, and I was just like, oh great. And then Zack Ryder automatically just pushes him, and Zack Ryder gets his moment. I marked out. This was just a redemption arc. Unfortunately, it leads to nothing, but at least I'm happy that Zack Ryder got his moment because man, he was doing amazing work in 2011 and 2012. He was over, and they never paid it off. They waited this long to do it, but hey, they finally did it. It is unfortunate. We could have gotten Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn here, and then half of these guys on the Andre Battle Royal. But again, good match. What you expect from a multi-man ladder match, but really, it's up to you whether or not you like the moment of Zack Ryder being the Intercontinental Champion. This does eventually lead to The Miz winning it and having possibly one of the greatest runs of his entire career. AJ Styles versus Chris Jericho was the next match. Pretty weird that they wrap up the trilogy at Fastlane. Then they become a tag team only for Jericho to betray Y2AJ. They had custom made t shirts and everything ready to go. And then they break the team up immediately. And uh, a heel Chris Jericho was the best thing that could have happened to Chris Jericho. And at first, I hated that AJ lost, but in retrospect, it made sense. Chris Jericho was going to evolve and become one of the most over acts in 2016. The list of Jericho, him forming an alliance with Kevin Owens, he did amazing work up to this point. And not to say that AJ Styles didn't do amazing, he did phenomenal, no pun intended, for his debut year. He possibly was the superstar of the year, winning the WWE Championship, beating John Cena not once but twice. Those awesome matches with Roman Reigns. AJ Styles was it in 2016, but this was his ultimate test. Was he ready? Well, he basically surpassed a loss to Chris Jericho. And funny enough, AJ Styles actually wanted Chris Jericho to win because like he's gonna be a new heel. I want to see this new heel. Let's put him over. So that was a huge respect if that's true from AJ Styles. Then we had the New Day versus the League of Nations in a six-man tag team match that nobody cared about. Wade Barrett was just in the corner. Wade Barrett was out the door anyway, so he really didn't matter. This was just like a consolation prize for forming the League of Nations. They needed to do something. They brought back Del Rio. Rusev needed to be over again, and Sheamus was the past WWE champion. So they needed something for these guys. So they just put them against the New Day, the most over tag team up to this point. New Day was like the most over thing in 2015, 2016. Then 2017, they had a rough start, but then they had that classic feud with the Usos. 2018, they got the belts again. And then 2019, well, I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's just talk about this. Bad match. It was not good. The only memorable thing about this was how the match begins and ends before and after the bell. They had the awesome Booty-O's entrance, them dressed as Dragon Ball Z characters. League of Nations kicking the Cheerios out of the way, or the Booty-O's, I should say. Um, then League of Nations shocked us by winning, only for Wade Barrett to cut the weirdest promo ever. There's no three men that could beat us, which is dumb because they're four. I'm shocked they went that way. But anyways, we had Shawn Michaels, Mick Foley, and Stone Cold Steve Austin all come out. Shawn Michaels in his wrestling gear, foreshadowing Crown Jewel. We don't talk about that. Mick Foley and Stone Cold Steve Austin come out. They basically beat up the League of Nations. The New Day come out to celebrate with the legends. They try to dance with Shawn Michaels. They make him dance. They make Mick Foley dance. As Stone Cold's about to dance, he hits Xavier Woods with a stunner. And this basically told us, yeah, the legends are it, not these new talents. Oh, God, I gotta talk about this. The most disappointing match growing up as a fan. Brock Lesnar versus Dean Ambrose. in a no holds barred street fight. I was so hyped for this match when it was announced. I was thinking this is gonna be it. This is gonna be the match that showcases Dean Ambrose. This was the match that destroyed Dean Ambrose because the whole feud was Dean Ambrose finding all these tools to um, beat up Brock Lesnar at WrestleMania. They even pivot to almost make it the WWE title match, which they didn't. Um, they had Mick Foley, Terry Funk, all these legends give him weapons that he never uses. Every time he's about to use them, it's just another suplex. The fact that they actually had a scoreboard of all the suplexes Brock Lesnar was giving Dean Ambrose showed you the amount of care for this match, and I felt bad for Dean Ambrose. This single-handedly buried his entire career. When he became WWE champion later this year, he was the afterthought. People were talking about AJ, Dolph Ziggler, even The Miz. Like 2016, when they did the brand split, it was supposed to be Dean Ambrose carrying the show, and it felt like everybody else was carrying the show except Dean Ambrose. And you could tell the amount of care after this because yeah, they really just buried him in this match, and I hate using that term, but it's exactly what happened. This was just a simple paycheck for Brock Lesnar. It didn't matter to him. He was gonna get paid regardless and do other things because he's Brock Lesnar. So sad and very disappointing of a match. Let's talk about the WWE Hall of Fame class of 2016. Going into the celebrity wing was Snoop Dogg. Very clear because they were gonna have Sasha Banks on the show, so it's very fitting that they would bring Snoop Dogg, the cousin of Sasha Banks, here. Joanne London, who got the Warrior Award. The Fabulous Freebirds, who were long deserving. Stan Hansen, I guess I don't know who Stan Hansen is, but he does have a fan base, so I can't really fault it. Jacqueline, who was deserving. There was other girls that I think could have gone before Jacqueline. Big Boss Man. This was a long time coming. Who the man? The Godfather. They finally put the Godfather in there. But the one that was important was, of course, Sting, who had to retire after being injured by Seth Rollins. Even though they did uh, Sting wrong in the WWE, at least he got to go into the Hall of Fame and give his speech and say these great stories. This is the same year that we get the Legacy Award officially. Mildred Burke, Frank Gotch, George Hackenschmidt, Ed Strangler Lewis, Pat O'Connor, Lou Thesz, and Sailor Art Thomas. The only one I know is Lou Thesz because he invented the Lou Thesz press. So, fine class. This is unfortunately the last time we ever get to see Howard Finkel at WrestleMania. I think up to this point he retired, but this is the last time he calls the Hall of Fame class. And this is the last time we see Howard Finkel at a WrestleMania. Then we get Charlotte Flair defending her Divas Championship against Sasha Banks and Becky Lynch. Oh, wait, I read that wrong. It is Charlotte Flair versus Sasha Banks versus Becky Lynch for the inaugural Women's Championship. This is when they officially retired the Divas Championship and we were moving on to the Women's Revolution. We were no longer calling the female wrestlers divas, we were calling them superstars. Rightfully so, and man, was this match incredible or what? This was the match of the night, hands down. Top notch, having all three girls. People complain that it should have been Sasha and Charlotte Flair. I think the reason why they added Becky Lynch because they needed Charlotte to win this match, so that would be fitting that they did it a triple threat match. And plus, we've never seen this combination. We've seen up to this point the four horsewomen. We've seen Bayley, Becky, Charlotte. We've seen Bayley, Sasha, Becky, but we've never seen Charlotte, Sasha, Becky. So this was good. The entrances were top notch. At this point, Becky Lynch was the last kicker. She had the cool looking attire. We had Sasha Banks coming out with Snoop Dogg. Now we had Charlotte Flair with the robe that Ric Flair wore from WrestleMania 24, but tweaked. So this was just top notch, just showcasing all three women. I like that Ric Flair got involved in this. Eventually, Charlotte went on to pursue her dreams of being a single star without Ric Flair's help, and she has done such an amazing job. I know we like to diss Charlotte for always winning, but man, when she was a heel, she was a heel. And plus, this was a good time for the women because, we had on Raw Sasha Banks and Charlotte carrying the show, Becky Lynch making new stars on SmackDown. So this really never hurt anybody. If anything, it just made you more invested in the women's division. So kudos for that. And that is why this is my match of the night. Honestly, the only thing I didn't like was the ending of Charlotte Flair having the figure eight on Becky, only for Sasha Banks, who was about to break it, get stopped by Ric Flair. I kind of wish that they had taken Ric Flair out for good. They do take him out earlier in the match, Becky and Sasha do. But I don't know, just the way it dragged for Ric Flair to be grabbing onto Sasha Banks for as long as he did, only for Becky to take forever to tap out. I don't know. And I think it made sense for Charlotte to be the first ever inaugural women's champion. Up to this point, Charlotte basically helped people care about the Divas Championship. Her, AJ Lee, Paige, and to an extent the Bella Twins really carried that belt. It was time for a change, and thankfully the Four Horsewomen were that change. Then we get Undertaker versus Shane McMahon, and up to this point the streak had already been gone, so the Undertaker magic legacy was gone. Even in the promo package they showed that Undertaker talks about legacy and WrestleMania is important to him, and Shane McMahon talks about how his legacy died 2 years ago. He's here to take over Monday Night Raw. I wonder why they did that. They should have just said, Shane McMahon, I want the company and I'll do anything it takes. Vince finally hires The Undertaker. Deep down, I know they wanted to do Triple H and Shane McMahon, but with a lot of the talents being gone, they needed a marquee match for Roman Reigns to win the title, so why not make it Triple H, I guess? So they kind of had to add this as an alternative. I heard the rumor it was supposed to be Undertaker versus Braun Strowman. And keep in mind, this isn't the Braun Strowman that we all fall in love with in 2017. This is the Braun Strowman that is still a lackey for Bray Wyatt. Thankfully, they did go with this match. Unfortunately, this match was one of the biggest issues of the show. Shane and Undertaker cannot carry a 30-minute match, and this shows. Really, this match is only famous for one spot. They go outside, they brawl for a while. Undertaker is laid on the announce table. Shane McMahon climbs the biggest cell I have ever seen. Shane dives. Undertaker moves out of the way. Michael Cole, for the love of mankind, while he is clearly reading a script in front of everybody. And after that moment, Undertaker takes forever to take Shane to the ring. Taps him. Tombstone piledriver. Undertaker wins. Very fitting, and this stipulation meant nothing because Shane McMahon eventually does run Raw for the next couple weeks, and then eventually Stephanie and Shane try to work together. It doesn't work out, and then that's where the draft happens. I just really wish that they committed to the storyline. If they were gonna have Shane McMahon not take over Raw, then they should have done other ways to build him to running SmackDown. That's what I personally would have done. But regardless, this match, it had its spots, it had its moments, but really these guys were a lot older. If this was them in the Attitude Era, this would have worked. But really, just watch the spot of Shane McMahon. That bump was insane. Andre the Giant Battle Royal. So we went from having it on the pre-show to bringing it back to the main card, and The real reason why it made it back on the main show was because of Shaquille O'Neal and the Big Show appearing. Shaquille O'Neal appearing a panda. Panda, 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 panda. I got broads in Atlanta. Remember that song? It was everywhere. Anyways, Big Show and Shaq have their stare down. They take out some guys, particularly Damien Sandow, that upset everybody. Then all the people throw them out. This is around the time the social outcasts were a thing, and they were going places until Adam Rose messed it up for everybody. Um, then they basically wrapped it up with the last three being Baron Corbin, Kane, and Mark Henry. Kane throws out Mark Henry. And then Baron Corbin surprises everybody and takes out Kane. And this was my favorite era of Baron Corbin. The lone wolf. He didn't talk. He didn't have to show charisma. He just had to beat up people quickly. Like, this was when Baron Corbin was cool. And unfortunately, they managed to screw him up as well. Man, was the writing bad around this time. He did amazing in 2016 when Ryan Ward was writing, but then the Road Dogg Jesse James took over and gave us some of the worst writing ever. Oh, by the way, did you know Tatanka and DDP were in this match? I totally spaced out on that. Now, up to this point, we have already hit 3.5 hours. So, my guess was Triple H and Roman Reigns was going to take up most of the time, and then we move on. Nope. The Rock had to come out with the Dallas Cowboy cheerleaders. I know that in the original WrestleMania live, they came out to Thunderstruck. But then they changed it to a ripoff of Thunderstruck for copyright reasons, understandably so. The Rock comes out. He has a flamethrower and he burns up his name where it says The Rock. And then he comes out. He announces the attendance record. He talks about how there's going to be a big moment. Bray Wyatt, Braun Strowman, and Eric Rowan come out. They have great trade off in the mic. And then this leads to a match between The Rock and Eric Rowan. Rock hits a rock bottom. 1, 2, 3. The Rock beats Eric Rowan in 6 seconds, the shortest match in the history of WrestleMania. And just when you think that Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman are going to beat up The Rock, out comes John Cena to even out the odds. Because I thought John Cena was hurt. No, he was pretending so he can shoot his movie. If that's true, F you, John Cena. But then it makes sense. You wouldn't want to have him only show up at WrestleMania. Look at what happened with Austin Theory. They didn't have John Cena on TV, and that hurt Austin Theory in the long run. Anyways, we're getting sidetracked. We had the moment of John Cena and The Rock standing tall together, foreshadowing what we know today. But we can finally talk about the main event because I am ready to get this show over with. Triple H and Roman Reigns for the WWE Championship. The feud itself wasn't that bad. It was pretty much the leftovers of the anti-authority figures. Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, and the Usos. Damn, that sucks. The Usos didn't even make it on the main card. How sad. They basically had Triple H and Roman Reigns drag out a 30-minute match, and it was just so boring. The entrance was weird with like a bunch of scold people with the WWE Championship. Roman Reigns comes out to massive boos because yes, the story made sense for Roman Reigns to win because there was no other option. Daniel Bryan had to retire. It was just bad all the way. And up to this point, people are already tired and they were waiting for the show to be over. The show happens. The only memorable thing that I can tell you was Roman Reigns speared Stephanie. Other than that, they try to have a technical masterpiece. And what is with Triple H wanting to have the longest match ever? I just don't get this guy. Sometimes this match could have been 10 minutes and we would have been happy. But anyways, Roman gets his victory, and then this leads the trend of Roman Reigns not being a good guy, not a bad guy, but the guy. Honestly, this show was bad. It had one amazing women's championship match, but everything else was not that good. I like Jericho and Styles. I like the ladder match, but I have already seen all that stuff before. The only thing that felt fresh to me was that women's match. And again, the undercard wasn't that bad. Really, just watch the three matches that you need to watch: the ladder match, Jericho Styles, and the women's match, especially the women's match. I'm giving it a D plus. I think I'm being generous because they had to work with what they had, because a lot of their talents were taken out, and it was just really hard for what was given to them. So I'm being generous, but I kind of wish I wasn't. D plus is the best I'll give it. Um, Anyways, I will never go back and watch this show. I hope I never have to go back and watch this show. I am excited to talk about 33. I have some things that I have to say that are not very popular, but I will say that I enjoyed WrestleMania 33. So stay tuned for that one.